Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex. This is Big Baby Reviews. Today's Saturday. Hope you're having a great weekend. It is Erik Larsen Day, and we're looking at the next issue of his Savage Dragon comic book from the early 90s. This is issue number 10, cover dated May 1994. Is that where we're at? Yeah, absolutely. 1994. So we're a little bit ahead with the Savage Dragon as compared to the other image creators. But that's okay. So this is the infamous create your own character to possibly, be in the Savage Dragon comic book, right? So send in your creations, and the best, or the one that we enjoy the most, will get picked to be in the comic book. And the winner is this character that we see here, as depicted by Erik Larsen. His name is Jimbo, the Mighty Lobster. And, when we get to the end of the issue, we'll see some of the other contestants and those who got close and stuff. But I understand why Erik Larsen picked this character here. Probably out of the whole bunch, he was probably the most different and kind of original. He's like Popeye Lobster, basically, is I guess what the concept is, right? He's a guy on a boat, and he's got the pipe and the hat, kind of like Popeye. I don't know how old the guy was when he created this character, but kind of a stroke of genius and, interesting and fun character for sure. I never would have thought of creating something like this back then. Back then, I was creating the exact kind of thing Erik Larsen was not looking for, which was like image character clones and super 90s kind of characters. And we'll see some of those at the end of this comic. But yeah, so he went with, I guess, and I think is the most original entry, and it's this guy here. And for some reason, you got a dragon versus a lobster. Like, there's a whole, animal kind of side to it. Japanese, Godzilla monsters fighting each other. The similarities there, I guess you could say. Kind of a cool cover, and I like how, he has Savage Dragon be back to us, and he's given most of the spotlight on this cover to this character that's being introduced here. The guy who won the contest obviously would want to see his character very prominently on the cover. We do too. And I remember thinking back in the day, even as a kid, reading this is like, yeah, I understand the choice. I see all these other characters that we're going to see eventually in this review, and I would tend to think that he made the right choice here. Let's open up the comic and find out if he did. So creator, writer, penciler, inker, Erik Larsen. Jimbo, the Mighty Lobster is created by Jason Merritt. I know that this gentleman has since passed away, so I'm not exactly sure how the rights work there, but apparently from what I heard, I thought there might be issues. Larsen was talking about it in an interview maybe last year, a few years ago on Cartoonist Kayfabe, but apparently he's had no issues reprinting it in the Savage Dragon trade paperbacks and such, right? The big collections. Letter, Chris Eliopoulos, colorist Ruben Rude. So I don't know if it starts here, but we had Steve Olive for a while. Now we've got Ruben Rude, who I feel does a bit more flat kind of coloring on Erik Larsen, which really works. I will mention right from this first page, I feel like this issue was probably done pretty quickly. Maybe like, he had to get it done in between two regular kind of issues of the Savage Dragon, so maybe he rushed it a little bit. Erik Larsen is a great artist, so I don't think the art suffers that much, but you'll notice there's a lot of shadows, a lot of straight blacks, and not so much fine detail and lines and stuff, which can be more economical, obviously, when you're trying to hit deadlines and get stuff done a little faster. It doesn't veer off into Mike Mignola territory or Frank Miller territory necessarily, but there's a bit of that influence here. And I feel the reason is, again, to get through the issue faster and deadline. The rendering of the hand here, perfectly serviceable hand, but I mean, that's like not the finest, most illustrative rendering here. It's practical rendering, I guess is what I call it. Something Klaus Janson can do sometimes as well as an inker. So yeah, most of this issue, we got lots of heavy shadows, right? Which actually looks cool. And Ruben Rude with this shot here, just the moody kind of dusk, sun's kind of setting down colors here, looks amazing. This shot here, very cool. So we're quickly introduced to Jimbo, right, in his face at least. Well, we've seen him on the cover, so there's not much mystery. But you would have to draw him on the cover, no choice. Another great sequence with the dragon. Again, I think the coloring here really works well. He's in Chicago, but sometimes it feels more like California for some reason. I don't know why I think that. Maybe because of the movie kind of aspect of Savage Dragon, very influenced by like, late 80s, early 90s action flicks, right? Brian Bosworth and stuff. I feel like Brian Bosworth back in the day would have been perfect to do the Savage Dragon, right? Probably the actor that most resembles the Savage Dragon's face. Yeah, this whole sequence is fun. Larson does a great job. Again, he's great at storytelling, action-packed, fighting, foreshortening and stuff, great angles. But the coloring really carries the sequence. I think it looks really good. All right, so we've got Jimbo making his way towards the Savage Dragon. So basically the premise is that he's heard that the Savage Dragon guy is really tough and possibly tougher than Jimbo, and he's not happy about that. So I will mention, when I was reading this comic, I was about 13 years old, starting through puberty and stuff like this. I mean, back in the day, no internet, right? So, you'd find like, some old, your stepdad's Playboy or something, and, you pass it around and hide it in the tree fort. I'm talking like an old fart here, but that's basically what would happen. And that's how you got access to seeing boobies and stuff and sexuality and pornography or whatever. But, to see nipples in a comic was very exciting for a 13-year-old, I got to tell you. It's just not something you would see in Marvel and DC comics. And I think Eric Larson was really pushing the boundaries. And from some of the stuff I've seen in recent Savage Dragon issues, is still pushing the boundaries as far as sexuality in comics, which is fine. I'm not for or against it. Some people want to pursue that, some people don't. That's fine. But yeah, definitely something we all enjoyed back in the day. Yeah, some more heavy shadows here. Like this Savage Dragon here, if you take out this arm, like that's almost, Mike Mignola level there, I would say. There's something very, very different to Larson's usual. Like, I know he drew this and inked this and stuff, but there's something very different in the representation of the dragon's face here. Almost like he's channeling a bit of Kirby and a bit of Bruce Timm or something. I don't know. It's a softer kind of look to it. Yeah, this here, like this Savage Dragon right here, that's very Mike Mignola. All right, so this guy's been tearing up the city. Savage Dragon, as usual, shows up to take care of the super-powered punks, right? And basically Jimbo here, here's the premise. Dragon spells it out here with Jimbo. What's your beef, handsome? Nothing. I just want to kick the shit out of you. That's all. So there you go. That's the premise. And, obviously Eric Larson's, I imagine, is writing stuff that he wants to draw and enjoys drawing. But you can feel it in these pages. Anytime the Savage Dragon's fighting someone and there's rubble and urban destruction and stuff, I think Eric Larson's kind of happy. And I'm happy to look at it. I think it looks really good because he's really good at it. Making, when you're reading comic books, you want to see buildings falling and stuff, right? It's a bit of it's a more subdued version here of Fist of the North Star. If you've seen that movie, you know what I'm talking about, right? If you haven't, well, go check it out. I don't want to talk about it here. Eventually, I might do some sort of review for that. I love that. I mean, I haven't seen, obviously, the manga that much, to be honest. But the movie, the animated movie from the early 80s is just awesome. And a very good interpretation of the manga from what I've seen. Cool shot of dragon here. Again, look at just the amount of black shadows in all these pages, right? It really allows you to get through pages quicker. I mean, there's not much more to say here again that I haven't said before, at least in this review. Larson is just bang on when it comes to the action, the foreshortening, and the angles and stuff, and moving things around. Just again, he's going with a slightly more economical style here with all the shadows and stuff. But I think it really looks good. It gives this comic a mood that it kind of almost stands out within the regular kind of series of Savage Dragon, just because of those shadows. He's done it before here and there, but I feel like he's just very consistent in this issue with some heavy shadows. Great shot here, the foreshortening. So he pretends he's passed out, basically, right? So that Jimbo can believe that he's beat his ass, and he can go out there and say, I beat the Savage Dragon. It's a lot of property destruction just for him to prove that point, but what are you going to do? If I'm not mistaken, this is the Fiend here, and he inhibits other people's bodies, right? So this is kind of, a bit of B or C story here that Eric Larson regularly mixes into the Savage Dragon for plot lines that he kind of builds slowly, 1 or 2 pages per issue, every other issue, and then eventually it builds to a head and it connects to the main storyline with Savage Dragon. So he's very clever. I've said it before. He's the best writer at Image. And, it's a kind of a Marvel trick, an old Stan Lee, well, mostly, leave Stan Lee out of it, mostly Jack Lee trick. Jack Lee. I'll get it right. A Jack Kirby trick that he would do a lot in his storylines to build little bits that he can then pull in later on to do main storylines, right? So the BCD storylines eventually become the main storyline. So something he's done, Jack Kirby, all throughout his career. If you look at his stuff in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even the 80s, the little bit he does, it all kind of has that feel to it. And I mean, this page is almost all black. And I guess, you know, it's economical again for deadline reasons, but it looks good and it works with the story, right? So if you're at least doing it where it's in service to the story, and it is here, right? Keeping the stark shadow on Frank here because we're not exactly sure he's supposed to be hidden away. You know, people think he's dead. So it makes sense to do that here. He's kind of trying to stay incognito. Which, if you want to know in French, is incognito. If you want to pronounce it the proper way. It's a French word. A lot of them in a lot of other languages, including English. All right, so the Ultimate Character Creating Contest. Hey, shut up. So this was the drawing that was sent in to Eric Larson that convinced him to use this character here. So I'm not going to go through the rules and stuff. You know, I've talked about before in this review, I think, of how he was avoiding image rip-off characters and stuff like that. So I'll talk about a few of these. I remember some of them, these two guys we saw in Wizard as well. Wizard had a regular thing where they would have people send in new characters they've created and, you know, created by fans, basically. And these guys had won before. Rachnis actually eventually got his own comic book, right? I reviewed issue 2 because it's the only one I have. I don't know if there's an issue 3. Issue 1 is probably out there somewhere. I don't have it. But he did eventually get to publication. Prick, I think the name maybe more than the design I like. You know, I mean, they work together. I feel like a guy named Prick, I would want a different design than this for myself because I like the name. And, you know, I'm not so fond of the design here. It's not horrible, but it's fun. You know, it's not imagey, I guess. Maybe it is kind of in a way. I don't know what I'm saying about this guy. I guess I just like the name. And this character, when I first, you know, even back in the day, Crimson Spade, I just said that's basically Black Widow, right? Copy of Black Widow. To me, anyways, it looks like that. The only other thing I want to mention here is the guy who drew this here. If you pay close attention to the design in this character here, his character that he submitted, he's very familiar with the human anatomy, I would say, and specifically more so with the male anatomy, right? I don't know if this was put in as a joke or not, possibly. Is there irony to this? I'm just saying, because this costume design is, I mean, put whatever adjective you want to throw in there. I'm not exactly sure. All right. Real quick, as we're moving along, as a kid, had no idea who John Fogerty was. So I was like, oh, who's this dude? And, why should I care? And on one of the past videos, I talked about Dung on the Savage Dragon review. He appeared in one of the Savage Dragon issues. And I mentioned how much I liked the peculiar way in which he talked. And a subscriber wrote back to me to tell me that, it's based on this DJ from Chicago and stuff. Well, here's the guy here. I guess I read this maybe as a kid, but I completely forgot about it. Old stuff that your brain doesn't hang on to. But yeah, I had seen this issue, and now it all came back flooding. That Dung is this character here. And again, because he's got that weird way of talking, the DJ does, Eric Larson incorporated that into Dung's speech pattern in the comic as well. Not much more to say about that. We've got the letter page, of course, some fan art, and someone dressing up as a Savage Dragon for Halloween, a kid. So, okay, pretty good job. I think that they did a pretty good job there. And just this I want to talk about before I let you guys go. So, I didn't even know that there was a Wild Star trade paperback. It says every page, every cover, every ad, every promo, everything, $12.95. It's a pretty good deal. But wait, there's more new story pages, new pinups, plus a sketchbook and info section to die for. Well, Wild Ones, what are you waiting for? I would venture to say that this trade paperback, right, is probably worth more and rarer than the actual regular series of that first miniseries, actually, of Wild Star. I've never seen it anywhere. I continually see issues of Wildstar in like dollar bins and stuff. One of the last kind of Image comics to be heavily ordered, I think, at least an Image comic not by the original 6 Image founders, right? So yeah, if you're interested in Wildstar, you're probably better off just checking the dollar bins if you want a cheap option. But I would kind of be interested in seeing this trade paperback, to be honest, because I kind of liked Wildstar. I didn't think it was horrible. You know, the story was probably better than most Image comics, to be honest. The concept and stuff, it was like kind of Venom symbiote kind of deal there that gives them powers. So it's kind of 90s and fun, even though drawn by maybe more of an 80s type artist. A great illustrator, certainly not knocking him, just not much of an Image style, I guess. Artist is Jerry Ordway, right? They didn't even. It's funny how they don't even put the creative team on this. That's odd to me. But yeah, I liked it enough that if I could find this trade at a decent, price, and if it exists, I'd probably splurge for it. Check out these extra everythings and pinups and story pages. That's interesting to me. Probably worth it if it's not too expensive. So there you have it, guys. That's my review of the Savage Dragon issue 10, the introduction of Jimbo the Mighty Lobster. Thank you so much. If you're subscribed and you're still watching, I really appreciate it. Your loyalty to the channel means a lot to me. Those of you who are watching but are not subscribed, please do so below. It takes only a second for you, and it really helps out the channel, helps us grow, helps us connect and meet up with like-minded people who are into the same stuff as we are, namely comic books. So everyone out there, hope you have a great weekend. Hope you have a great day. Take it easy, and I will see you tomorrow.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.